Welcome once more to WRS, your radio station. And as far for today's matter, we are making a whole recap of this year's event. My teammate May will talk about one of the biggest advances towards peace in the world. Sit tight and hope you enjoy this special edition program.
As you may know, the creation of the United Nations is a very big step towards achieving peace in our beautiful world. Let's talk more about it, but with some detail. 2 years ago, in 1943, the Conference of Tehran took place, and one of the points that were discussed was the creation of the United Nations. Since then, the whole plan has been checked 1,000 times, and it became official the 24th of October of 1945. The name of United Nations originated when the former president, Franklin Roosevelt, used it in a declaration by United Nations, which was signed by 26 nations on January 1st of 1942. And then, this declaration continued to be a worldwide organization. Remember, one more step towards achieving world peace. Now, we're moving on with my teammate Phil. You're on, Phil.
Thank you very much. We are moving next to Great Britain with our partner Meave. She is live from Heathrow, outside the local airport, the Heathrow Airport, reporting about the first civilian flight that will take off in just a few hours. Meave, what can you tell us about this event?
Hello everyone, we are just outside the airport witnessing what would be a change in history, the first ever civilian flight that will be from Great Britain to Buenos Aires. Of course, this is a long distance. To be exact, it is a flight of 6,898 miles and 14 hours long. The plane will have a scale on Lisbon, Portugal. This is Meave reporting from Heathrow, Great Britain. See you at the next one.
Thank you, Miv. Now let's move on with my teammate Sean, who will pass a report about the Army and its accomplishments.
4 months ago, the war ended. A sense of partial stability can be noticed among our citizens. This kind of tranquility has not been present since December 6 of 1941, a day before the ruthless attack on Pearl Harbor, a day to be remembered, which was not in vain. Today, we can be grateful with the US Navy and Army for their sacrifice and commitment. This is complete evidence of teamwork. But if someone asked me to name the man of the moment, it's the US Supreme Commander General, Douglas MacArthur. His last accomplishment was to accept the official Japanese surrender on September 1 of the present year. This event took place aboard the USS Missouri, a proud American battleship. This marks the end of World War II, which was later announced on September 2 by President Harry Truman. The news spread with a press conference, and finally the nation, alongside the entire world, began celebrating peace, a peace that we truly missed. Now we are going back to our station with my teammate Rose. We have a very special guest with us who would like to share some stuff.
Thank you very much, Sean. As for today's big segment, we have in our studio a fellow gentleman and a well-known person, the US President Mr. Harry Truman. We are here to talk about a main topic that is concerning all of Europe, but mostly this country. What would be the sanction for Germany and for the other countries that are part of the Axis?
I'm so glad you invited me to this show. First of all, I would like to say that we're doing all in our power to help the countries that were affected by this terrible event.
Mr. President, we're so glad for the victory, but we're more concerned about what would be the consequences for the countries that were against the Allies and the people who were involved.
Well, at the end of the war, all the countries from the Allies had a meeting and agreed to form a committee who would judge the people who were involved and apply the first punishment.
And how are the charges going to be imposed and completely fulfilled?
We are still on the planning of this committee, but the charges are going to be imposed to the people involved depending on their actions, the evidences, the role they played, and its consequences.
And Mr. President, how do you think the world will prevent further conflicts like another world war?
As this country has proposed in the presidency of FDR, we are trying to improve the League of Nations by the appending of more countries in a better structure. it is most likely that the name for this organization will be the United Nations. It's a great name. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope the world can restore the damage caused by the conflict. But most of all, we hope that the world can stay united. No! Thanks to you. It was a pleasure to talk about this very important topic. And Happy New Year, by the way, to everyone. Our Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, such a great man. Now, we're moving on with my teammate Sean, who will give us the second report of the day. You are on, Sean.
The angry rose, the split of Korea wasn't even that shocked the whole world but mostly the Asian continent. As you may or may not know, the north part of Korea belonged to Japan. When the war was over, the Japanese government realized North Korea from its domain, but it still was influenced by the USSR. As a result, it established a communist government, and South Korea, influenced by the US, established a democratic republic. It's not that much of a surprise that North Korea and South Korea are in conflict, which actually means USSR versus the US. This may lead to further conflicts if both North and South Korea don't handle things well. The actual leaders of these two new countries are Kim Il-sung, leader of the North, and Ri Syngman, leader of the South. Thank you very much, and we will be back in a moment.
You know, everyone has the need of a break. Every once in a while, when you are working, every place where they sell Coca-Cola is a mighty popular place. A sparkling glass of ice cold Coke is a sparkling addition to your day. So, at intermission time or at any time, pause and refresh. Stop at the nearest Coke selling place, and then you can enjoy the most soft drink in the whole world, the bright and blazing Coca-Cola. Give yourself a break. Have a Coke.
And we're back. This year isn't over yet, and we still have some other events to review. You're on, Ross.
One special event that needs to be remembered proudly from all of us Americans is the raise of our flag in Iwo Jima. Let's take a step back to February 23rd of 1945, when the American forces arrived to Mount Suribachi during World War II. The original plan our soldiers had was to take over Suribachi and defeat the Japanese just in a matter of days. But what the soldiers found was something that transformed the original plan into something really complicated to achieve. Japanese soldiers had built trenches and tunnels under the mount, and they were ready to attack and ready to fight to death. And, as I said, hard but not impossible. After the massive battle, American soldiers were able to reach Suribachi's top for good. Once they were there, 5 Marines and a doctor of the army started to raise the American flag working together. In that instant, photographer Joe Rosenthal took this legendary picture that transformed into a symbol of America, representing unity and us, but it also became one of the most important pictures of World War II. Let's go back with Phil.
Thank you very much. I think we have talked enough about politics. Now let's move on with some technological advances. You're on, Sean.
We're live from Hungary. We're outside just a few meters from Fisherman's Bastion, where the first ballpoint pen was created by Laszlo Biro, and since then it has marked a very prominent change in the way we write. He decided to create a pen using the same type of ink used in the newspapers, but the ink was too thick and it wouldn't flow from a regular pen nib, so he thought of a new type of point for the pen. He did it by fitting a tiny ball in the tip of the pen, and it was a success. The ball was able to rotate, leaving the ink on the paper. Biro patented his first pen, and he applied for another patent in Argentina. The British government bought the rights to Biro's patent during World War II, and that's how Biro's famous pen became popular. And let's go back to some politics and prices.
The Peace Prize has to be something very difficult to achieve, and at the same time very satisfactory for whom is receiving it. Can anyone wonder how would it feel to win a Nobel Prize? And even so, receiving the Peace Prize? This was the case of Cordell Hull, an American lawyer which was awarded by the Nobel Committee with the Peace Prize because of his implication as a prominent participant in the creation of the United Nations in this same year, 1945. He was also recommended by our ex-president Franklin D. Roosevelt to receive this prize, described as the only person in the world that gave everything to make this peace plan a thing. Cotto Hall is also known as the father of the United Nations. He adopted this name because of, as mentioned earlier, he had an important paper in the creation of the UN, and also because several actions he made were considered suitable for this title, like his commercial treaties with Latin American countries. Phil, it's your turn.
As we've seen today, our year was full of political issues. We have talked about the most deadliest conflict of the history lived by humanity on the 20th century. We've also talked about the first civil flight ever in the history and the trials that the countries from the Axis will suffer, mostly Germany. We've also informed about the separation of Korea and the new parts of the country. This was a year of many emotions, a roller coaster of events. We have to stay strong, but most of all, we have to stay unified. WRS wishes you a happy new year. See you in the next one.